What's going on, my friends? Lauren Sisler here with ESPN, hanging out with Cole Cubelic. You can catch him on SEC Network, ESPN, as well as on the radio WJOX in the morning, 7 to 10 with Greg McElroy. Lots to unpack as we head into Week 11 of the college football season and get ready to break down Auburn's matchup with Texas A&M back in Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Oh, let's go now. Oh, now. Let's go now. Can't stop us. Let's go now. Now.
So if we were grilling up some mini burgers, this might be a nice little flip.
It's going to be a mini.
A little slider. Alabama Cattlemen's Association, we appreciate you. Been our sponsors all season long. Y'all are awesome. Love some beef. Love some good stuff. Cole wants to know if he can have a cow, apparently. You want some cattle? You got some cattle?
No, I don't want it walking. I would like it cut up and ready to throw on the grill.
Ready to throw on the grill. All right, we'll see what we can do there. All right, so Auburn, big matchup this weekend. Auburn at home, Texas A&M, 6:30 kickoff. You will be covering that game, so we'll get into that momentarily. But I just want to talk about this past weekend with Auburn. Obviously, everything they went through. Cadillac Williams being named the interim head football coach for the Auburn Tigers. The game, obviously, going very much in favor of Mississippi State, 24-6 at the halftime. But then Auburn just comes out and fires, strikes, punches back, fights, plays with so much heart. And I will tell you, watching Cadillac's post-game interview, I got super choked up, like just kind of watching him get choked up, talking about everything this team went through, everything that they've had to fight through. And we've talked about it throughout the season with all this tumultuous stuff. What players have to go through, like that's the one thing that the fans sometimes forget. As hard as it is to lose football games, think about those kids in the locker room that are putting their bodies on the line every single day.
It was really cool to see. And to be able to conduct that interview pregame with Carnell and to see him basically take like that 8-second dramatic pause before he answered it. And you could just see it inside of him that he kind of didn't believe that moment was his, that it was actually happening. And then to see how the team responded to him, like you said, Lauren, not just for the entire game, but to go down the way that they did, and then to be able to battle back, play with and at halftime going in, he told me, he's like, we will not quit. We will get back in this game. We will play Auburn football. And they did. It was really cool. And
you got to imagine that I would love to know what that halftime speech was like. And
absolutely.
What went down and what words he had prepared for that moment, because it had to have been big to keep those guys up and fighting.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. And he has obviously energized that team, but I think there's something that he did and has done that we don't see and a lot of people won't know about. And when we had a chance to meet with him last week, because we saw the team and how energized they were, we had a chance to meet with Carnell. He said, first off, he didn't want it to be about him. He said, I want this to be about the players. This is not about me. I want them to have something to enjoy the rest of this season. But then he also told us how he emphasized going to the staff. And he talked to the staff about how much he needed them, how much the players needed them, and how much they needed to come together, and how much the players needed to see them united and seeing them put forth the effort and seeing them being together. That was a brilliant strategy. Because I think a lot of times, and I've told you about my experience, you guys have heard me discuss that these coaches all just kind of go their separate ways. Now they're still coaching per se, but they all have one foot out the door and they're looking at this and looking at that. And I think Will Friend bought completely into being the offensive coordinator. Ike Hilliard helping him out with that. I think Kendall Simmons bought completely into being the offensive line coach, right in and filled in brilliantly. And I think the fact too that you had Jimmy Brumbaugh, Zach Etheridge, Kendall Simmons, some people who are Auburn to their core, be able to be there to help Carnell with that, really allowed him to get that staff where they needed to be to get that team ready and for the team to trust those coaches as well. So it's something that no one will really see, but I think was a really, really incredible strategy by Carnell to be able to go out and do that, and it worked. I think that's a big reason why the team went out and responded the way that they did.
Yeah, a lot of undervalued, underrated, under the radar type things that are happening around this program that, as you mentioned, don't get nearly enough credit. So it'll be interesting to see how things shake out this week. Obviously, Auburn back home at Jordan-Hare Stadium against a Texas A&M team that has been quite a bit of a disappointment this football season. You've covered them as well. Same record, a little eerily similar. Same record, 3-6 on the season, 1-5 in the league. Both teams coming into it with a 5-game losing streak. So you can imagine, obviously, both teams desperately searching for that win. The numbers for Auburn haven't been extravagant running the football. I think that still says a lot because there's been a lot of issues with the offensive line throughout the season, trying to figure out those right combinations, trying to get guys, number one, healthy and being able to move the line. But I think to be able to say that they've been able to continue to have production on the ground has been pretty impressive under the circumstances that they've been under. And I think this is an opportunity for them to kind of really step up and really pound the rock and hopefully have that edge against Texas A&M.
No, I don't think there's any doubt. And we talked last week that Auburn had the bodies to find success against Mississippi State. They had the extra tight ends. They were going to be able to add an extra body by running the quarterback, and a lot of that is what worked for Kentucky a couple weeks prior. They went out and did that. Will Friend put that plan together to allow that to take place. I think you roll even more into that. You lean more into that this week against Texas A&M, a more talented front, but not a more disciplined front. Now, I think State's linebackers are better than A&M's, but if you're talking about talent up front of the defensive line, A&M is up there with anybody else in the league. They just don't play fundamentally sound football yet. They're out of place a lot. They're not in the right gaps. They're too far upfield in their pass rush. They get out of their pass rush lanes. So I think you'll see more misdirection from Auburn this week. They added a little bit. There are a couple of wrinkles. You saw some jet sweep motions, different things. Maybe some quarterback counters where you're faking one way and kind of coming back. Some motions to try to draw the eyes. Find ways to get those defenders upfield because they will let you steal yards. They'll get out of position and give you yards if you're in position to take them. So I think that's what you'll see a little bit more from the Auburn plan this week. I don't want to say you completely just can the passing game, but I think it's worthwhile to kind of move forward from saying we have to really just be balanced. I think they can be a good running football team with the tight ends, the backs, maybe see more multiple back sets, and then with what Robbie can do with his legs. So they now have the time to put a few things in. They didn't have time to put anything in last week. You'll see some wrinkles. You'll see some things that are a little bit different. It's not going to be easy losing Austin Troxell for the rest of the year.
Right.
He's played pretty good football this season, but you got some guys up there that understand what it takes, and they're getting a little bit closer. And this team now believes.
Obviously, there's a lot of heart, and I think that you've had a little bit more time to kind of get your feet under you and figure out how to get this rest of the season, stay optimistic, stay positive. Before we get into predictions, I know you can't predict, you're covering the game, but just a quick couple nuggets on Connor Wigman and sort of what kind of quarterback he is and how Auburn defends him.
He's kind of sneaky athletic. I think he moves a little bit better than what you'll feel like he does when you see him. When he needs to leave the pocket, he can. He was an elite baseball player. Played third base and shortstop, so he can change the arm angles. He can throw different ways. He is, one thing that I really like about him, he is not afraid to test the middle of the field. Now, a lot of coaches don't want their quarterback going to the middle of the field. They won't even call it. And then other ones, the quarterbacks, when it is called, they're afraid to push it down the middle of the field. He will try the middle of the field. So the Auburn linebackers and safeties have to protect that portion of the field. And he's tough. He took a couple big hits in the Ole Miss game that we had, and he bounced right back up and continued to play. He's got a big, strong arm. They'll push the ball down the field. They will take their shots. And he's someone who I think has a pretty good understanding of just all of the offense.
And I think that's worth noting. Texas A&M had several players out, upwards of 20 guys dealing with the flu. Obviously, that's kind of the flu bug's been going around, so that's certainly not something you want. So it'll be interesting to see who's back, who's healthy, who's feeling good enough to play, obviously at top speed. The last thing I'll say, first of all, I think Auburn has a great shot at winning this football game. I'm going to pick Auburn to win this 28-17. The crowd. I'm very anxious to see who shows up. It's a 6:30 kick in Jordan-Hare Stadium. I know they get next week against Western Kentucky, but I think this is such a great opportunity for the Auburn fans to show their support and to love on these guys and to give them that confidence that they need to kind of finish out this season on a high note. And so to me, I really hope the fans show up and show out and show that respect for this football
I don't
team.
have to hope. I know they will. I don't think they will. I know they will. Picking up my son from preschool yesterday, I was in the grocery store Sunday afternoon. The amount of Auburn fans that have come up to me here in Birmingham and talked about how excited they are and how pumped up they are, how they themselves are re-energized with what this program might have down the road and a chance to sort of finish strong. You only have 2 more home games, so if you like going to the games and that's what you do, you only have 2 more chances to be able to do that, and this is the last conference game to be able to do that with, and it's a team that you can go out and beat. So I think Jordan-Hare Stadium is going to be rocking. I think you'll see a lot of Letterman back. I think you'll see the fans get in there and be loud, be obnoxious, which is going to be great because keep in mind, Texas A&M in Columbia, South Carolina a couple weeks ago, 7 false start penalties in that game. And that place was loud. That place was rolling. And so Jordan-Hare Stadium, if they can be close to that, that could be a real issue for Texas A&M again.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.